Terms to know when building in high velocity wind zones and wind-borne debris areas. Welcome to Building Knowledge 101. In this video, we will look at specific requirements, concepts, and terms architects need to know for projects in high velocity wind zones or wind-borne debris areas. There are areas along the U.S. coastline that are designated by code to be high velocity wind zones or wind-borne debris areas. Those two terms are used interchangeably. These areas have very specific codes requirements that go beyond what is required for typical elevations. They have to be followed carefully, and specifications that go above and beyond typical architectural framing systems also. If you're working on a project that falls into one of these specific wind zone areas, there are critical, unique things that are required for the project you need to be aware of. So I'm going to start with going over some terms that are going to be unique for high velocity wind zones or impact areas. So the first one is HVHZ, which is high velocity hurricane zones. And this refers specifically to Miami-Dade and Broward counties in Florida. This is where you have high prone area for hurricanes. HVWZ is high velocity wind zone. So this is a larger geographic area along the coastal area of the United States where high wind speeds are common. Then hurricane-prone regions is even a larger geographic area. This is where you're getting into higher speeds, approaching the speeds of about 115 miles an hour. Then wind-borne debris areas are areas defined by the code as within 1 mile of the mean high water mark and with wind speeds of 130 or greater, or anywhere where wind speeds exceed 140. We'll get into talking about that again briefly here. FPA is Florida Product Approval. Anytime you use any system going into Florida, the state of Florida has its own approval standards set up. So everything used in Florida, all products have to have an associated Florida approval code number with them. NOA is Notice of Acceptance. That was started after Hurricane Andrew by Miami-Dade, when they decided that as a city, an area, a county, they were going to start certifying products and develop standards for impact resistance. And any product sold then in Miami-Dade had to have an NOA or Notice of Acceptance. Florida Product Approval oversees that now. So any product sold in Miami-Dade will have a Florida approval code on it, and that supersedes the NOA. TDI is very similar to Florida Product Approval Certification. TDI is Texas Department of Insurance, and they have a building code also for products in tornado-prone areas. ASTM is American Society for Testing Materials. They're one of the largest internationally recognized developers of voluntary standard testing performances. ASTM E1886 and E1996, we're going to talk about those in a little bit, so I don't want to spend much time on them now, but they're impact test standards. Then wind zones, when you look at areas along the coastal areas and all throughout the United States, there are different zones based on what the maximum or larger wind speeds are going to be in those areas. TAS is Testing Application Standard. It is another organization that writes voluntary testing standards, specifically TAS 201, 202, and 203. And again, we'll get into those in just a little bit. ICC 500 is International Code Council 500. Now, this is a standard written for creation of storm shelters in areas where there's high velocity winds more inward, more toward central United States. Then ASCE/SEI 7 is a document for a method for determining wind loads. That is all we have time for in this video. If you'd like to watch more of our 101 video series, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kawneer Company, Inc.